also means we must avoid shortcuts to acquiring wealth. The Bible is very clear about this. Be careful about using shortcuts to getting rich. And I believe the Bible is very clear. The only way to financial stability is hard work and aiming to be excellent in your marketplace because of your training, what you have learned. Proverbs 24:34 tells us this: by wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. See, the foundation for building our career or our business is wisdom, knowledge, understanding. See, there's no mention in the Bible about hasty schemes that use things like manipulation, dishonesty, and all this. In fact, the Bible is very clear. Don't use deceptive means to gain wealth. Things like bribes, fraud, deception, extortion, manipulation, and things like that. And it is very clear when people use all these means to get rich, that means they are gaining wealth at the expense of others, and God's wrath will fall on those who implement these schemes. So we must always in our planning be careful. Avoid thinking of getting rich quickly, because whatever it is, they involve some means of exploiting others or fraud. Next, we go on the last point, that is to avoid recklessness. Some Christians ask, are we allowed to invest money for profit? I'm not an expert in money matters. You should talk to this guy. He's from the other. He's probably your parents will know him. Chong Ho, he's wonderful when money is concerned, and when he talks, I can understand what he is saying, because he's very good at this. So I'm not very good in financial matters or investment and all that. But I do know this, that there is a place for responsible investing in things like property and certain types of shares in the stock market. But I think when we want to do all that, it must involve diligent planning, wise stewardship, and as well as sensible judgment. We use our mind, right? Not simply our heart and our emotions. Because why? That means that we have to be careful. Don't indulge in reckless speculation. Again, Proverbs is a good guide for us to remember. Proverbs 21 verse 5. It says this: the plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. See? The emphasis is again on what? Hard work, diligence, zeal. Not all these hasty, get rich quick kind of schemes. So by all means, insure your family, right, when you get married. Insure your property, that's important, and insure yourself as well. And when you have investments, diversify your investment. Don't put it all in one basket. And avoid overexposure, right, to certain schemes or investment. Because why? So that when things go bad, and sometimes they do go bad, we don't know. Only God knows what tomorrow will bring. But I believe sincerely we must avoid recklessness, avoid dishonesty, maintain our Christian principles and theology. And we will enjoy the promise of God. In Proverbs 10 verse 22, the blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and He adds no trouble to it. Be careful, I'm not talking about prosperity gospel here, that health and wealth is an entitlement and things like that. But I believe hard work, good principles of working, good principles, good virtues in our marketplace, good moral principles and all that, we will prosper. Because firstly, people look at us and say, yeah, this person is upright, he can be trusted. And people will entrust maybe a higher position to him or a greater portfolio to him. See, the key always is this. We must have a good biblical attitude towards money, and we must be able to handle it well. What is the key there, right? We have to work hard, we have to plan well. And then the last one, which is even more important, and of course the world doesn't agree with this. The third principle is even more important. What it is? We must be generous in giving. See, why do we have to be generous in giving? And I think it's a very important principle for Christians. There are two temptations. Actually, there are two temptations that arise when we love money too much. Can you know what happens? Firstly, the first one is the temptation that is to disobey the first commandment, which is idolatry. Because money replaces God as number one in our hearts. Secondly, there's the last commandment, which is about covetousness. Covetousness simply means what? You must have more. We want more. I want more. Right? And how do we really contend with this temptation? How do we overcome it? We learn to give generously to God's work. See, when we do that, we are actually showing that God is first place in our life. It is not our money. We do not worship money. We worship God, and that's why we are willing to give our money to God as a form of worship. Firstly, we overcome the temptation to hoard wealth. Now, there is a difference between saving for a rainy day and selfish accumulation, which actually ignores the needs of others. The Bible reminds us of this. Accumulate riches in heaven instead of on earth. Look at Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 to 20. It says, do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Why? Why? Right? Firstly, earthly riches can disappear overnight. You have read the stories in the newspaper, right? Earthly riches can actually disappear overnight. People's millions of dollars can be wiped clean. Right? Think of all the various financial crises that happened in the last 10 years. How many people's fortunes have been wiped out? Then secondly, generous giving is actually investing in things of eternal value. And therefore, we learn to focus on things of eternal value. That is, things of heaven, not of things of this earth. Secondly, I think giving generously to God helps us to overcome the temptation of forgetting God. Remember the verse that we read just now in Deuteronomy chapter 8? Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe His commands, His laws, and His decrees that I am giving you this day. See, the danger of having so much money and hoarding is that we become dependent on our own strengths, on our own abilities. That's why Jesus said this in chapter 6, verse 24. He said, no one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. And then he closes, he says, you cannot serve both God and money. If we have the right attitude, right, of stewardship, we will see God as the provider of all that we have. If so, if God is a provider, then why can't we honor Him with our money? Since no one can serve both God and money, actually generous giving to God shows us really, who our master is. That is God Himself, not the money that is in our pocket. So I'm going to close. But let me close with something about giving to God's word. So many times people ask me, Pastor, should I tithe 10% for my salary before CPF deduction or after CPF deduction? What do you think? Well, there are no, maybe I should say, there is no clear legal guideline, okay? But I think important, start by giving your first 10%, and I think give out of the gross, Give your first 10% to the church. You know why? Give your first 10% to the church, because the church is the one that nurtures you spiritually, gives you opportunity to grow, gives you fellowship in which you can get together with other people of the same faith that not only help you to grow, encourage you in the way you ought to live your Christian life. So always give 10% first. But having given, does that mean that now legally, wow, this 90% is now mine? You know, I can do whatever I want to do with it. Is that how we want to think? Let's think a little, right? See, out of the 90%, you will still need to save for your retirement. I know you all are very young, no, retirement is still very, very far out. I know. But start thinking today will be good, no? Set aside a bit, no? You have to think of your housing. You have to think of next time when you have children, you have your children's education. Education is not cheap as well, right up to university. So you set aside some money monthly. You calculate how much you can save comfortably, and you set aside that month. Now, you have set aside the money. That doesn't mean that the rest is for you to spend on the, just self-indulgently. Okay lah, now I can go out and enjoy myself. Remember, we are to sow things of eternal value. Having done all that, I think we also need to cast our eyes around and see people who are in need. See, sometimes there are people that come across, sometimes missionary comes across with some special need. Maybe he has a special project that he will need to raise money for. Then we dig into our pocket, we give. Sometimes we see our friends, they have real financial hardships. It's not something that is out of our means. No, we can afford to give, we give. Right? Then things like that. So we give to them. Then when we give, do we say after we give, say, oh, okay, I've given already. So next month I don't have to buy my 10%. No, that's not the right way. Give 10% to the church still. The rest, whatever we give, is like an extra offering. No. And let me tell you, as our wealth increases, we learn to live. That doesn't mean that correspondingly all the money we continue to spend on ourselves. Because if we work hard, I can tell you honestly, as a general rule of life, we will be upwardly mobile and we will progress upwards. And when we progress upwards, it means what happens? Our salary will increase, our wages will increase. And there will be times that will come when we will be able to say, spend, maybe live on 70% of our salary, maybe 70% in the sense like your savings and all those other things you can save as well. You can live on 70% and we can give 30% to God's work. And if that happens, we should give as well. Even after we have saved all for our children's education, our retirement, our housing and all that, and we are able to give more than 10%, I think we should give. We shouldn't just hold back. Of course, that doesn't mean that we are to be stingy to ourselves. No, I don't think so. When I remember this watch I bought, it's a Tech Heuer. I was in the Philippines. At that time, I was earning about $1,000 a month only. But when I came back, immediately I said, wow. One day I went to when I went to the shop, I said, wow, this watch is so nice. When I came back to Singapore, that time Margit and I were not married. We were still dating. I called her, straight went to the shop in Orchard Road, and I bought this watch. It cost about 700 plus. See, I don't think so there's anything wrong with enjoying yourself with some of the increase that God has given you. There's nothing wrong with that. You can enjoy it. Maybe you have a wonderful, you like songs and you want to have a wonderful sound system in your house. Go ahead and do it. But also, don't stop at giving 10% to the church when you can afford to give more. See, it's always a matter of balance, it's a matter of attitude towards God, and it's a matter of, our relationship with God and how happy we are at giving. And I want to tell you this honestly, me, I do not believe in the prosperity gospel. I do not preach it at all. But I know that in life, when we give generously to God, we have peace in our hearts. God somehow, gives us wisdom on how we can spend less, or how we can, go without certain things, and we will have peace in our hearts. And the best thing is to be able to say, after you have given, to be able to say, I acknowledge Him as Lord. Because why? He is the provider of all that we have. See, ultimately, when all is said and done, that is the most important thing. To know that our greatest blessing is God Himself. When we can remember that, then we are putting God as number one in our life. Not our wealth, not our money, not our possessions or position of priority, but God takes first place in our lives. So I thought I'd just share with you. Many of these things are actually common sense. Right? I want to tell you honestly, they are common sense. But common sense, also they are backed by the Bible, which means they are also God's plan for us to live sensibly and live in a way that is honoring to Him. So remember this, when we have much, remember the giver, not just the gift. And that's all I want to close with. All blessings to you.